You know, it's one of history's great questions. How does a people, a whole culture, survive for 2,000 years without a country to call home? In this explainer, we're going to dig into that. It's an absolutely remarkable story of survival, really looking at how an entire people managed to endure for centuries without a homeland.
I mean, think about it. It just sounds impossible, right? Like a complete historical anomaly. And yet, it happened. The key to understanding how, well, it lies in an idea that's so much bigger than just lines on a map. So, there's actually a specific word for this experience in Hebrew, galut. And it's important to know that this isn't just a simple translation of exile. It's way deeper than just being forced out of your home. It's a profound state of being, almost a spiritual condition. This feeling of homelessness, of being adrift. It literally shaped Jewish theology, their culture, their entire identity for thousands of years.
Okay, so let's unpack that a bit. What does this exile actually look like in practice? Well, it was two things at once, a deep-seated state of mind, and at the same time, a very structured, very practical way of life.
And this really gets to the core challenge they faced. Just imagine for a second that you're a permanent minority. Everywhere you go, you're the outsider. The big question is, how do you keep your own distinct identity, your culture, from just disappearing into the bigger culture all around you? That was the problem they absolutely had to solve.
And the solution they came up with is just fascinating. They essentially decided to build a world within a world. And this idea? This became their blueprint for survival. It was really ingenious. Instead of needing a king or an outside government to run things, they created their own self-sufficient societies. Think of it like a complete community kit that could be packed up and moved almost anywhere in the world. It was basically a portable infrastructure for a nation that was always on the move.
This whole structure had a name, the Kahila, and it was basically a complete self-governing community. It had three main parts. First, you had religious authority, the rabbis who interpreted Jewish law. Then you had civil justice, their own internal courts to handle disputes. And finally, they had their own social services, everything from charity and welfare to schools. It was like a tiny, self-contained state.
And all of this was held up by four key pillars. You had the synagogue, which was the spiritual center of everything. Then there was a huge focus on education. Studying the sacred texts was absolutely central. Charity was another big one, making sure the needy in the community were taken care of. And of course, the courts, which handled justice. These four pillars working together, that's what made these communities so incredibly strong and resilient.
But of course, these communities didn't exist in a bubble. They were always living alongside other cultures. And that relationship with the outside world, well, it was always a very delicate balancing act. They were the precarious neighbor, and their story is one of both cooperation and, sadly, persecution.
Life in the diaspora was really a story of two extremes. On the one hand, you had these amazing periods of coexistence. You'd see economic partnerships, incredible intellectual exchanges, and real cultural flourishing. But then, there was the other side of the coin. The constant threat of persecution was always there. We're talking everything from restrictive laws to violent mob attacks called pogroms, and even mass expulsions. It was an incredibly fragile and unpredictable way to live.
And when you look at the timeline, you really get a sense of just how fragile their existence was, and for how long. I mean, it goes way back to the early exiles by the Assyrians and Babylonians. But the real catastrophic event, the big one, was when the Romans destroyed the Second Temple in Jerusalem in the year 70. That's what really kicked off this long, 2,000-year exile. And you see the pattern repeat over and over through the violence of the Crusades, the expulsion from Spain in 1492. It was a history just punctuated by crisis.
But here's where the story takes this incredible turn. Because out of all this crisis, something amazing happened. It actually sparked unbelievable creativity. It forced them to invent something entirely new, a portable homeland. So the catalyst for this huge innovation was that disaster back in 70 CE. When the Romans destroyed the Second Temple, they weren't just knocking down a building. I mean, this was the absolute center of Jewish life, both physically and spiritually. Everything revolved around it. So the question became, how can your religion even survive when its very heart has been ripped out? There's this amazing quote from the Talmud that just perfectly captures this new reality. It says, "Since the day the temple was destroyed, the Holy One has nothing in this world but the 4 cubits of halacha," which is Jewish law.
The message there is so powerful. With the physical building gone, holiness had to be found somewhere else. It wasn't in a place anymore. It was in study, in practice, in the law. The focus completely shifted from a sacred place to a sacred text. And this was the solution. It meant a total transformation of Judaism. It became, as we said, a portable homeland. One that wasn't built on soil or territory, but on a foundation of sacred texts, laws, and traditions, something they could carry with them, in their minds and in their hearts, no matter where they ended up. Now, the absolute cornerstone of this portable homeland was a text called the Talmud. And really, it's hard to overstate how important this was. The Talmud is this huge, sprawling collection of everything. Law, legends, philosophy, debates, you name it. For centuries, it basically served as the constitution for a nation without a country, guiding almost every single aspect of their lives. So, what's the takeaway from all this? What's the lasting legacy of this incredible 2,000-year journey? Let's talk about that. Well, this incredible journey forged a few key things. It created this amazing resilience and adaptability in the culture. It built a global interconnected community, long before we had the internet. It also led to this really deep intellectual tradition, all focused on analyzing texts and debating ideas. And finally, it shaped a completely unique identity, one that was forged in the fire of always being the minority, always being the outsider. And all this history leaves us with one last big question for today. In our world, with all its global connections and digital communities, what does exile even mean anymore? Is it about a physical place? Or maybe it was always just a state of mind?